This is a microphone test. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. One more microphone test. Check 1, 2.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight for Dixie's Fire Incident Update. My name is Kim Osborne, Public Information for Great Basin Team 1. First, let me bring you up to date with the latest numbers regarding the Dixie Fire. The Dixie Fire is currently at 889,000 acres with 55% containment, and there are currently 3,820 personnel assigned to the incident. Our first speaker will be Incident Meteorologist Jack Messick.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. All right. The weather for the past couple of days has been quite helpful. We had our wind event at the end of August, and it continued to be breezy for the first couple days in September. But the last two, we've had high pressure move over our area. And what high pressure does is generally the winds are lighter. You tend to be more sunny and warmer because the sunshine gets through, but the air is also more stable and stagnant, which means if you have a fire producing smoke, it is harder for it to disperse, especially at night where it collects in the valleys. And that is exactly what we have now, and we will be having that for not only tomorrow but through Monday. So we can expect more of the same. We are in a warming trend. Where temperatures, more and more of them at the lower elevations, will be getting into the 90s. And our relative humidity is pretty much staying where it is. We have, every afternoon, we've been getting humidities below 10% for a good portion of the area. And overnight, what we call humidity recovery, if we wanted it to be really good, it would be in excess of 50%. But even down in the valleys, where you tend to have the higher humidity recoveries, it has not been that good every day. And up in the mountains, it's been especially poor, where the relative humidity stays below 30%, which is quite dry. And so that means that these fuels continue to dry at night. Fire will continue to burn. It will not self-extinguish because the moisture content becomes too high. And so we continue to get lots of smoke and lots of fire going on. So I'd like to take a look at this weather dashboard. I call it the weather dashboard because it's like the dashboard on your car. If I want to explain this, the more yellow and red lights you see on your dashboard, the more concern you have. And in terms of weather, we're using the same thresholds to indicate some level of concern. And you can see there's a lot of red and yellow on this chart, especially once we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. So Sunday and Monday, very hot, very dry, and that's the primary reason for the red lights there. And we have some winds, but they're nothing we can't handle too badly. Gusts into the 20s, especially the low 20s. Most of that happens on ridges. And so it's very limited in its coverage. And these are the peak gusts of anywhere on the fire where we're fighting it here on this team. But then on Tuesday, we have a different animal coming in. We have what we call a dry cold front. It'll be sweeping through Northern California on that day. We call it dry because it doesn't provide a lot of moisture and usually just provides what we call dry thunderstorms. And that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't rain at all. That means the rain amounts are less than 1/10 of an inch here in California. So this is sweeping through, and about really all it's going to do is provide some clouds, which we haven't seen in a while, and it'll kick up the winds. And so the winds will be out of the southwest, and they'll be gusting in excess of 30 miles an hour with such a cold front. Any moisture that comes out of this will be left on the coastal ranges between Eureka and the North Bay. So we're not looking for any additional moisture, but it does cool the temperatures down. The trough will pass probably late Tuesday into Tuesday night. And then on Wednesday, as is typical behind a front, you can get some really gusty winds to continue for about a day or so. And so Wednesday also looks fairly windy. Temperatures are falling, but that doesn't really help the fire a whole lot. So it will take a while, but the winds will cease. And then on Thursday, Friday, we are potentially looking at some unstable, more moist air coming in on for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which may produce some showers and thunderstorms. But we'll see. That's a long way out, and often that forecast is very difficult to get a good feel for until you're within 24 hours of the event. So I expect that forecast to be very changeable, at least at this point in time. With that, we'll go to fire behavior.
Good evening, Tobin Kelly with Fire Behavior. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of the west side of the fire. That's been very quiet. As we mentioned in the past, when we get the fire underburn, the conifer trees doesn't consume the whole canopy, but it does kill the needles, and that needle cast falls down, and it does get thick enough, and on a hot spot, it'll produce smoke and actually produce some low-intensity surface fire. So lots of the smokes we're seeing out in this country and even starting to be over in this country is due to that needle cast dropping down on some hot spots. No real threat, but does produce smoke and very low-intensity fire. So as I said, most of this area, is looking very good. A lot of patrol, mop up, and things like that. And Devil's Punch Bowl here above H60, that fire's been fairly static. It's still moving around, but not really moving to a great extent. As we walk down Grizzly Ridge and all over to Turner, a tremendous amount of work went in there, withstood that north wind. It's looking good. Every day that's looking better. So that's being very quiet out here. The most activity that we've seen is kind of this northeast finger of the fire. So yesterday we did get more northerly winds, and it pushed out these two fingers of fire down through the Coyote Hills and then down south of the 01 road, and it's sitting on kind of the north end of Horton Ridge right now. So today this fire did back down against the wind, and so this is pretty much all filled in. Not a real factor for any kind of growth out here, but just filling in between these two fingers. Over on Horton Ridge, this fire was coming over on the west side a little bit, but also falling over on the east side. That is a concern tonight and tomorrow for wanting to continue to potentially push down and east over towards the Dixie Valley. So that's one of the areas of concern. The other place is going out the 01 road, and the fire did come out Ross Canyon. And that's, again, it's uphill here, so that will tend to move the fire more up towards the Sugar Fire scar from this year. The concern is that if we do get some more winds that want to wrap the fire down around on the east side of the Dixie Valley. So those are the two areas here that are concerned from a fire behavior standpoint. This will continue to fill in up along the upper edge here. And the other point up here is the fire right along the escarpment sitting above 395. We are looking at some potential more westerly winds, a little bit more gustier that we have not had since that fire's been sitting up there. So a lot of work's been going in there, but that is going to be something that we'll be watching with the weather and where that fire's sitting up there. So like Jack said, for the next 2 days, we're going to see very similar weather that we've had the last couple. And the big concern is where the fire will be when we starting in the cold front with the much stronger winds that come in. So that should be it for fire behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobin. We'll now be presented with a video for you from the West Zone featuring Operations Section Chief Tony Burnell.
Good evening. My name is Tony Brownell, CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1, Operations for the West Zone of the Dixie Fire. For tonight's update, I'm going to start off in Branch 9. Looking very good in that area. We're doing a lot of mop up. No calls for service in there today. We did have one island in way interior start to burn out. We monitored it, no issues. Moving up into Branch 13. Fire became active on bottom of Reeder Ridge or Reeder Mountain. It's burning, but it's kind of burning back into the main burn, so there's no issues. We worked 6 Type 1 helicopters into today, kept it in check. The crews continue to build line to build the box to keep it into the Lassen National Volcanic Park. No issues. We almost have our other line completed all the way in there to box that in to keep it from going to Old Station. We're looking very good in that area. Moving into Branch 16, a little bit more of a challenge today. The winds were real shifty from east, northeast, southeast. It just kept on moving around, and it kept on pushing on this line right here. We got several spot fires over the line, but we're working with aircraft and ground resources. We were able to keep them all in check at this point. No issue or to Highway 44 yet, but it's a little touch and go in there right now, but I think we're making great progress. Moving down Sierra Tango, down under the A21 road, looking really good, no issues. Very minimal call for services down in the Almanor area. We did list some evacuations in this area today, but we expected more calls for service, but we've been pretty good. We're still working on the dry wet lake bed down there below Westwood. It is going to take some time to get that out. It's like a peat bog. It's a lot of deep organic material. It keeps on wanting to come back to life. We're working at every day, keeping that in check. No issue down below Susanville on the 36 corridor. Moving down to Janesville, looking very good in Janesville, no issues. We have a lot of line down there holding that in there. We're working around the structures. We're hoping to lift the evacuations that very soon. We're still working on it to make it safe. The issue about lifting it too soon is the fire coming up here out of the Davis Lake area. It continues to be very active on the south end of it, as the east zone will explain. And this whole side over here we have line on it. We're plumbing it, and we're starting to mop that up so we don't get the fire pushed back into Janesville to Milford area. On the 395 corridor, the fire is about halfway out the escarpment towards 395. We have lines going down both sides of it to keep it in check, so if it does want to run down to 395, we got it boxed in on all sides. Those lines are in progress. We're expecting some weather later on in the week that's going to challenge that, but I think we're going to be ready for it when it comes in. We have a lot of resources stacked down there to take care of that issue if it does arise. Thank you.
Our next speaker from East Zone Operations Chief, Ian Satterfield.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to say we just finished up briefing the night crews, and they're headed out for another good night of work. They're poised and ready, but I'll give you an update here on what occurred today. So working out here in Branch 25 in WW X-ray, we had crews out there and engines patrolling, mopping up, looking for hot spots. They found very minimal any kind of heat in there, so things are looking really, really good on our back door. We'll continue to patrol and mop up that area back there. Working up on top here, we still have crews in the Dyer Mountain area, still doing patrol, mop up, and attacking any kind of smokes that appear. And like our West partners said, we're up here also assisting with that other little piece up here at the Meadows Lake area, assisting there. Coming around into November on the top side, we have crews and engines patrolling. We're still have folks going into the Wilcox cabins area, making sure that there's no heat in and around those cabins, and making sure we're good there. Working around here into the Janesville area, which is our division uniform. Our lines are in place on the north and the south end. But we still have that heat that's sitting up there in that Devil's Punch Bowl. The terrain that's in there is incredibly steep, difficult. So our plan in there is really right now we're holding it, monitoring it, making sure that it kind of stays in check with aircraft. The crews are improving the lines that are in place so that once the weather and forecast it gets into a good realm, we'll look at other possibilities of how we're going to deal with that. To protect the fire from coming down here into Taylorsville. But until we're able to address that, there's still a threat of the fire. Working over into the Genesee Valley area, we had quite a few boots on the ground in there, working around the structures. The goal in there for them was to get 100 feet of mop up around the structures. And so things are looking really good in there. Working down into Romeo, which is down this Grizzly Ridge. We have boots on the ground all the way around as it ties into Davis Lake. And like weather was saying in fire behavior, we had the east wind on it that tested that line. We had no issues, no spots outside the line, so things are looking really good along here. So big success for us right now with this piece of line. Working around into Quebec, our line that comes up over the ridge, we had folks in there today mopping up, patrolling, getting some depth in there. That, again, has held for the last 2 days, and things are looking good right there. Continuing back into Quebec, we had, like fire behavior said, we had 2 fingers that pushed out last evening. The night crews were able to get some dozer line in, and we were able to lock in this piece on the Coyote Hills area from the 117 back into the black on the line. Everything there held today and looks really good. It did obviously fill into this little pocket in here, but there was no issue to the line. As we come around the horn, we did have a spot fire that got out and got established out on that Horton Ridge and is increasing in size out there tonight. We have the night crews heading out there tonight looking for any opportunity to be able to try and go direct on that. And we're hoping as the night comes on like it did last night, the fire behavior started to become a little bit less and we were able to get in there and go direct. Kind of the same thing as we get up into above the 01 road, kind of at the top end of Dixie Valley, at the corner there of Ross Canyon. Fire did come down to Ross Canyon. We attempted and worked hard to try and catch it on that Ross Canyon road. We're unsuccessful. It spotted over and got itself established on the other side. So folks are in here, and we have structure protection in Dixie Valley, and everyone is in here doing structure protection and structure triage. Working around to the top on the escarpment. Again, we're working with our partners to the west. They've got the Milford Group and I forgot the name of the group, and I apologize. They're working in conjunction, and we've got good communication and plans for if the fire does decide to come off the escarpment. Some more good work really got done on the north side. We were able to come from the 117 all the way back to the 0-1. They tied that in with dozer line. We had crews in there plumbing that, putting hose down on the ground, and working to mop that up and secure that. We did have our structure protection out, and they were again working up in the Grizzly Heights area, doing structure protection and triage, and as well as up here in the Dixie Valley area, like I said before, and then also looking at coming up with plans and opportunities to come up with alternate lines and contingency lines to start putting in place in case this thing continues to try and move down into the south. With that, end of report, and everyone have a good evening.
Thank you, Ian. Our next speaker will be from Plumas County Sheriff's Office, Chandler Pay.
Good evening. My name is Deputy Chandler Pay. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Plumas County Sheriff's Office and Office of Emergency Services. Today, we made some downgrades in multiple zones across Plumas County. So a couple orders were reduced. That was the Canyon Dam area, the Harkness Mountain area, and the Warner Valley area. Those areas were reduced to a warning. So as folks do return to those areas, we caution you to just make good judgment calls when returning to those areas. There are still some hazards that could exist. So just be cautious when you're returning into those areas. Firefighters could still be working in the area, so we want to caution you on that. Drive with your headlights on, stuff like that, just to make sure you're safe and they're safe going back in there. A couple warnings were lifted today as well. That was an area north of Canyon Dam, towards Dyer Mountain, Indian Falls, Round Valley, Eastern Indian Valley area, the Diamond Mountain Road area, Lone Rock, and the area of Fruit Growers Boulevard. So those areas, again, were lifted off of their warning. Yesterday, we made a little bit bigger lift, and that was the community of Greenville. So community of Greenville was affected very much so by the Dixie Fire, and we want the public to know when they're going back in there that a lot of the essential services are gone and non-existent right now. So we want you to be aware that there is limited services available in there. The Evergreen Market is working diligently and quickly to get back open to provide you that service. However, we want you to know that there is no internet service in the town, no landlines, restaurants, gas stations, the pharmacy, and many other essential services are no longer available. So we want to caution you about that when you're making your decision to repopulate that area. Additionally, to assist with those individuals who still have structures standing in the area and are returning home, we understand that garbage service is not being provided at this time, no roll-off service. So what we have done in coordination with the California Office of Emergency Services is we have placed several dumpster locations throughout the community so that you can utilize them for your household trash. We do ask that while you're utilizing these dumpsters for your household trash, you try not to overfill these dumpsters, try not to fill them with stuff that's been accumulated around your property, and also please not fill them with hazardous items such as vehicle batteries, solvents, paints, gas, and other items such as that. At Greenville High School, we have established a location that residents in the area can pick up potable water. So that includes gallon jugs along with bottled water because the water from the Greenville area is still not safe to drink at this time. For a current evacuation map, we encourage you to continue visiting community.zonehaven.com. and you'll be able to find our current evacuation map at all times to see what areas are still under warning and orders. We also want to remind folks that are going back to their residences and that are still waiting to go back that DTSC cleanup is still underway. This is the phase 1 removal of household hazardous waste. You can check the progress on this by going to the plumascounty.us website, going under the Dixie Fire tab and clicking on recovery and damage. There'll be a link under that section to provide you with a map that you can track the DTSC progress and check to see if your property has been completed or not. Again, you can do that by going to plumascounty.us, going under the Dixie Fire tab and clicking on recovery and damage. As the incident mentioned earlier in their briefing, they're doing a lot of work in the Dixie Valley area. Some structure protection obviously is going on, and we have full confidence in them that they're doing a great job to do everything they can to protect the structures in that area, and we thank them for that. We also want to encourage you to please continue to follow us on Facebook at the Plumas County Sheriff's Office for the most current information, and also going to plumascounty.us under the Dixie Fire tab, where we have posted a multitude of resources for those of you who have been affected by the Dixie Fire. And for those of you who have concerns for friends, family in the area, you can find a lot of our current information on there, such as our current evacuation order form. Any press releases that we've released for the incident are also in that section, and maps regarding damage are also in that section as well. Looks like a question just came in. Give me just a sec. Looks like there's a question asking about evacuations in Sierra County. We have been in cooperation with the Sierra County Sheriff's Office, and to my knowledge, in relation to the Dixie Fire, Sierra County has not issued any evacuation orders whatsoever in relation to the Dixie Fire. Whether they have any other incidents going on in their county, I can't speak to that. So I would encourage you to reach out to the Sierra County Sheriff's Office for that concern. In closing, I would just like to encourage the community to continue and support each other. Remember that just because these warnings and orders are being issued doesn't mean that some community members don't still need support. This is going to be a long recovery process for Plumas County, especially in the Greenville, Indian Falls, Feather River Canyon area. And we just want to remind you to continue supporting your friends, family, and neighbors, and don't forget about them in this time of need, even in the time that they're trying to go back. And I think that's all we have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Next, we will hear from our agency administrator representing the Plumas National Forest, Steve Hottenbach.
Thank you. It is great news to hear of evacuation warnings and orders being lifted, but we also recognize that so many members of our community have been affected, have lost homes or damaged homes during this fire. We did want to repeat the availability of a resource on the National Forest that may suit the needs for some evacuees. We have multiple campgrounds available where evacuees could camp in the area of Meadow Valley, LaPorte Road, and the Lake Basin Recreation Area. These campgrounds are free of charge. For information on that, you can contact the Dixie Fire information line. I'm going to give that number, which is 949-573-5702. Now, this is primitive camping. There's no services available here, and due to the current fire conditions, campfires are not allowed. That is one reason that we currently have a region-wide order in place here in California prohibiting public access to the National Forest, because all of our fire resources, of course, are out suppressing these fires, as you've heard today. So we want to limit the risks for natural ignitions or human-caused ignitions out there. But we do want to make sure these campgrounds are known to be available for evacuees if that meets your need. Again, that number is the Dixie Fire Information Line, 949-573-5702. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Now we're going to see a presentation of a video from Agency Administrator Representing the Lassen National Forest, Deb Bumpus.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deb Bumpus, the Forest Supervisor on the Lassen National Forest and one of the agency administrators for the Dixie incident. Wanted to welcome you to this afternoon's Facebook Live broadcast, and this is from Susanville. We have the map up behind me, and just want to make sure that you all have a chance to look at that at all times so you can get your questions in the chat so we can get those answered. Been seeing a lot of questions about some of the communities on the outskirts of the fire, especially on the west and north side. So let us know if you have questions about those, and we'll address those. I also want to just address that we will have people going back into the forest soon in some areas, not all areas, but those areas that we do have folks going back home, you know, just continue to be careful when you go out in those areas. The other thing is just to band together as a community. We have folks that have lost a lot. We have employees that have lost things, communities, whole communities that have been lost. So make sure that you are empathetic to those folks, listen to them, provide help. And so if you're some of those folks that need help, just allow people to help you as well. I've noticed a lot of businesses in town doing fundraisers. I think that's great. And if you have the opportunity as those businesses to share that information with the forest, we'll help out as much as we can as well. So again, thank you for joining us today, and have a good evening.
Our final speaker tonight will be our East Zone Incident Commander, Evans Quill.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Evans Quill, Incident Commander. On behalf of Nick Truax, the Unified Incident Commander, and myself, would like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We value your questions, and we want to do our best to answer them. So as you've heard from our incident meteorologist, our fire behavior analyst, as well as operations from both teams, the fires continue to challenge us. And it's not just the wind speeds, the variable directions, the extremely low RHs, but it also has to do with the extreme dryness of the fuels. So even though we made it through the red flag conditions when we had winds very high up in the low 30s and or actually even mid 30 mile an hour range, once the winds died off, the fire continued to exhibit extreme rapid rates of spread as well as intensity. And a lot of that just has to do with the how dry the fuels are. They're, record low. Think about in the wintertime when you bring in your firewood from outside and you immediately try to put it in your wood stove. If it was most recently outside, it might take a little bit for the fire in your stove to heat up and really get burning. But if you had kindling or pieces of wood stacked inside your house where it's been dried and warmed up by the interior of the house all day long, and you throw it in your wood stove, it burns readily and almost immediately. That's the situation we're in right now with the wildland fuels out there. They've been cooked all summer long, starting going all the way back into May and June when we started getting a lot of those record temperatures, driving out just any little last shred of moisture inside them. So our fuels are extremely dry, and it's going to take quite a bit of a weather shift, a lot higher humidities, precipitation to really bring about any difference. So we're going to continue being challenged. There's no question about that on this fire. That being said, the 3,800 some odd firefighters that we do have fighting this fire, we're persevering, not giving up the fight. And to the great work of all the folks, we are able to enjoy some successes, even though we continue to be challenged. So the good news is we're starting to see some resources coming in to replace the ones that timed out, and so that'll definitely help. And when those people come in, we're going to plug them into the mix and put them in the place where we can do the most good. But in summary, the both zones, we're still working very hard on 5 problem areas throughout the fire. So up on the far north end, on the escarpment above Hurlong Junction, that's one of our problem areas that we're trying to manage. We're also trying to herd the fire around Dixie Valley. That's one of our immediate threats to minimize impact to that community up in there. Keep the fire south, keep the fire from moving south, so we can keep it from going into Portola. But in the event that the fire wants to keep pushing farther to the south, we do have contingency actions in place and going in right now. Up on the west zone, big effort in trying to keep the fire from impacting Old Station, and the other area of concern is keep the fire south of Highway 44. So both teams are persevering and certainly not giving up the fight. We do have a number of questions. Excuse me. Older eyes. So one of the first question is has to do with Dixie Valley. So as Ian, our operations, mentioned, we have quite a bit of fire pushing out of up onto Horton Ridge, and that's going to Horton Ridge pretty much runs in this area, and if the fire starts falling off down in there, it could go into the valley where Dixie Valley is, and then we also have a more of immediate threat of larger piece of fire coming out from the south, or coming from the north, pushing to the south. So we do have a lot of people in there associated with our structure protection group. They were in there all day, and then as well as this evening throughout the night. A lot of those folks are the OES structure engines, so they're very good at this type of work. Our intention is to do our best to protect all those homes in that Dixie Valley area. One of the good news is from the sugar fire earlier this summer, there was a lot of structure protection done in that Dixie Valley already. So a lot of the prep work, the dozer lines, the fuel mitigation was already done. And so we were able to make use of that to really, that's why we got a big jump on getting people up in there. They didn't have to do all that work ahead of time. Another question here is about Hurlong and Doyle. So Hurlong Junction in this area right up here, and the fire is about halfway down the escarpment. And so is it threatened? Absolutely. But do we have a plan? Yes, we do. We also have a lot of firefighters in place. And then if Doyle, if I'm understanding where that is, it's farther over on the other side of the Beckworth, the complex fire. So for right now, Doyle is not an immediate threat. Has the fire entered Conklin Park? So Conklin Park is right about in here, I believe. So yes, the fire passed through it, I want to say 3 or 4 nights ago. And so yeah, it's kind of right in the middle of the finger fire that went to the north, unfortunately. Are there concerns that the Coyote Hills fire could go west into the lower part of Lake Davis and Grizzly Road? So this is the fire in Coyote Hills. And are we concerned that the fire could continue going south and then come up into this area, if I understand that question right? Yes, we are concerned about that. However, we're doing our best to cut this southerly movement off, and we were able to do that. I believe we got the line established last night, and we're able to hold it throughout the day today. We've also got quite a bit of effort going on Turner Ridge up in this area, and so far that line has been holding with the great work that all the firefighters are doing in there. So. And then as far as the upper end of Lake Davis, similar situation here along this perimeter. That was burned out probably at least 5 or 6 nights ago, and we've been working on it ever since. And thanks to the lake being right there, we have a great, excellent source of water for all the hose lays that we have deployed out there. How was Lake Davis today? I believe I've answered that question. Though in truth, I would really like to be able to say it was wonderful, refreshing, and I enjoyed it, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get out there. What is being done near Portola? I think we already answered that question. We're doing our best to cut the fire off that's moving up here from working the way south. But in the event that the fire continues to push our hand, we are working on contingency lines down in that area. But in the meantime, we also have arrangements worked out with Plumas County Sheriff's Office as far as some trigger points of when we might want to recommend evacuations, and we are in very close contact with that department should that become necessary. Here's a question are there new hotspots near Division Romeo right of Greenhorn and to the right of Kronberg? So Greenhorn is here, Kronberg is here, so if you're thinking about to the right, no, there are not, and that's been visually confirmed by our folks in the aviation as well as the people working Division Romeo. You know, earlier on we were getting some questions about this from people looking at some of the satellite detects from Modus and Beers, and I think we may have provide that explanation one night about the satellite detections for heat. While they're accurate on picking up heat, they're a very coarse scale on the resolution, so the accuracy of where they are exactly on the ground is sometimes skewed. So, so if you're looking at that, yeah, it needs to be validated. All that data needs to be validated. Another question here is: did the fire run into the sugar fire scar? So the sugar fire. This is the sugar fire scar from the Beckworth complex early in the summer. The Dixie fire has not yet merged with the sugar fire, though we fully anticipate in certain locations it may very well touch. This would be probably one of the closest points over in here, or maybe somewhere along this flank. And yep, I think that's probably the last question, unless we have. Oh, there's a question for the sheriff's office, so I'll pass this off.
Two items of follow-up that was brought to my attention that I needed to address tonight was talking about the ROE form, which is the right of entry form for residents with affected properties. So for those of you that have residents that were affected, you can go to the plymouthcounty.us website under the Dixie Fire tab, go under debris removal. You can click on the ROE checklist and then complete the ROE, which is a pretty lengthy process that you can do. So please continue to check that. There's also a phone number and an email address listed under that tab if you have any questions concerning that process. Additionally, received information from the Indian Valley Community Services District that as you're returning back into the Indian Valley area, if you find that your water was shut off, you can contact our office by calling 530-283-6300, and we will get in touch with the Community Services District for you to have them come back and shut your water off. Many residents had water shut off at their main line to prevent flooding on their property due to hoses, sprinklers, and other items that were left on. So again, if you return to your property and find your water was shut off and you'd like to have it turned back on, you can call our dispatch at 530-283-6300. Thank you.
Thank you for watching tonight. There might be some questions on Facebook that were not answered, and we will continue trying to answer those questions online for you. Our next meeting will be Monday, September 6th at 7:30, and we will see you then on Facebook Live.